Good afternoon, and welcome to the historic season performance hall here in Yakima. My name is Randy Beaver. I'm proud to be a volunteer here at and a friend, Strosahl family. Today, we say thank you. We say thank you to a visionary whose tenacity, dedication, and will resulted in this wonderful venue, this crown jewel of Yakima, becoming the heart of live music here in the Yakima Valley. Today, we say thank you. My wife, Susan, and I became involved in the seasons many years ago. We both were inspired by the promise and the inspiration and the expectation of the seasons. That initial spark that led us to volunteer here was lit by Pat's enthusiasm for and dedication to the dream of the seasons. Susan and I were full in. To us, the seasons is a commitment and is a direct reflection of Pat's love of the arts, his family, and his community. Thank you, Pat. Thank you for inviting Susan and me to be part of the season journey, and thank you for leading the way there to Pat. And now, Jim Boone, who is a cousin of Pat's, is going to provide an invocation.
I suggest widen your view. Can you look at this moment in the light of eternity? And whatever eternity means to you, whether it's consciousness or a deity or nothing, or just the beauty of everything that is created. Widen your view to that. And know that you are an individuation of that. You are a personification of that which created everything you every day. And so all that created everything is within you. You can hear anything, you can see anything, you can do anything. Anything you have always done, you can choose not to do. And anything that you have never done, you can choose to do. So we're here to celebrate life. Listen for what resonates with you. I submit there are things in here that will ring like the beautiful music that Pat made and he loved. He loved community. He loved beauty, he loved art, he loved people. He looked out for people. And he loved community in a sense that was far beyond the streets and the machines and the sewers and the houses and the skyscrapers. He loved community because he loved people, he cared for them. In my spiritual community, we have kind of a vision statement that I think he would apply. We envision, and I think Pat Strosahl envisioned a world that works for everyone. Now, we don't have that world yet, and we didn't achieve it in his lifetime, but he worked to build it. And I invite you to work to build whatever is well for you, whatever is marked in you today, build that. And so, thank you.
Pat started up the Sunday Serenade, and he requested of me that I find these two students and put them on because he was so impressed with what he had heard. Kayla Kwan studies with Vanessa on violin, whom you'll hear later. They both study piano with me. And Luke Kwan studies with Bruce Walker on the cello. Pat had a vision for bringing music to students, bringing students to music, and featuring students. And in that spirit, we want to play an arrangement from the solo trio of Amazing Grace with Bach.
because I'm still recording.
Appreciate that so much. More great music to come today. Now I'm going to share with you a bit of a story here about Pat and his life. It was written by his wife, Judy. You'll hear Judy's words while you will continue to enjoy these images of Pat throughout the years. So Pat was raised in Yakima on Glacier Way by his parents, Joyce, who was about 5'2" and from the south, and a prodigious violinist from a very young age, and John, who was about 6'2" and from a farm in Iowa. John was an outdoorsman, a home-building entrepreneur, self-taught, who read extensively and believed in his own ideas and potential. Pat turned out to be much like each of them. He loved music, he loved literature, he really loved all of the arts, he had opinions about everything, and was also confident of his ability to learn about and make a contribution in any sphere that interested him. The Strosahl brothers as a group were an intense, rowdy, intellectual quartet to which an adopted daughter was added after Pat was in college. After graduating from Eisenhower High School in Yakima in 1965, Pat attended Whitman College in Walla Walla for his freshman year, but he transferred to the University of Washington in Seattle, wanting a bigger setting. Although he did earn a degree in English writing, several possibly more important things occurred during his years of college in Seattle. He rented a big house. It was nicknamed the Dump. And he presided over a shifting group of inhabitants, some originally from Yakima, and some of whom are still very close friends. Number two, he met Judy. Between his junior and senior year, when she was between her junior and senior year of high school, he worked at the university bookstore, and her after-school job was at the hole-in-one donut shop just across the street. And number three, Pat became deeply concerned about the justifiability of the Vietnam War and eventually applied for status as a conscientious objector on philosophical grounds. His first application was denied, but he appealed, and his second one was granted, so he was allowed to do alternative service. This is how Pat was, or at least tried to be throughout his life, committed to ideas and to principles. Together, Pat and Judy stumbled upon the art form of enameling. They built a little craft enameling business called Enamel Works, which allowed them to listen to music all day. With their Enamel Works partner, Coral Schaefer, they wrote a book on enameling. Beginning in their 9th year, they had their first of 3 children, all of whom you will hear from today. Pat and Judy taught their kids to question authority, but they forgot to mention that wasn't supposed to include their parents. Pat became concerned about incongruous development in their urban village, in their urban neighborhood, and he quickly became a leader in neighborhood-based activism. He helped start an influential group, political group, called Vision Seattle, and ran for city council twice. Pat and Judy stayed in one house for over 40 years, remodeling, repainting, reconfiguring rooms as the kids grew. Pat later worked for a software company, but he was drawn back to Yakima in the early 2000s to join brothers Mark and Steve in running the family business United Builders, which was founded, by the way, 1949. He commuted to Seattle on weekends for several years because Judy and Logan, they stayed there and remained there until Logan graduated from high school. Pat was strongly committed to his father's ethical business practices. He was proud to provide housing for home buyers in a range of incomes. In 2005, Stephen Patt discovered that the first Church of Christ scientist of Nancy's Avenue in Yakima was for sale. But exotically, although they had no idea how much so, John, Joyce, Stephen, Patt bought the building and founded the Seasons Performance Hall as a non-profit concert venue intending to realize Joyce's dreams of expanding classical music in Yakima. That very first board of directors, some of whom are here today, they were made up by so many of Yakima's music and business and museum leaders. Excellence was there, excitement was there, but so were rocky times, always shoestring times and disappointments. Pat, nevertheless, remained single-minded in his expanding vision of what the Seasons could be for 17 years. His optimism was unwavering at his death. He often commented on what a generous community Yakima is and appreciated critical contributions made by Seasons board members, staff, and loyal supporters. So here we are. Remembering Pat Strosahl today, we invite you to share your memories later on in today's program. As we are all aware, Pat made a whole host of dear friends throughout his life, many of whom are joining us today, either in person or virtually. One of those friends from way back on Glacier Way is Al Jones, and Al is here to speak to us right now.
I'm sad, but I also feel grateful for my long friendship with Pat, which began when we were about 12 years old. And I have many happy memories. Playing Little League baseball with the United Builders Little League teams, camping with the Boy Scouts, playing tennis and backyard basketball. You know, Pat loves sports, but for some reason he never made the varsity team. He explained this not anomaly by saying that he was built for comfort, not for speed. I remember playing guitar and singing songs. Amazing Grace was one of our favorites. We played bridge in the school cafeteria or stayed up all night smoking cigars. I remember riding in his 1951 Packard Clipper, a rolling cartoon, and riding in his Chevy Corvair, a car that Ralph Nader called unsafe at any speed. In 1966, Pat transferred to the University of Washington and rented a big old house in the U District, known as the Dump. And it became the headquarters for our radical thought and experiments. Music played a big role in our young culture. A new album by the Beatles, Bob Dylan, or the Rolling Stones was a cultural event, which we observed by gathering around the stereo with a gallon of Pino Tanola and a lid of marijuana, listening to the album and weighing its impact on civilization. Pat was more responsible than the Muslims. He was more conservative in some ways. He idealized and promoted literature and the arts, helping edit and publish a poetry magazine, The Prince. He defended romantic love and monogamy, and his relationship with Judy demonstrated his values. Pat drank alcohol and smoked marijuana, but not to excess. And to my knowledge, he never experimented with psychedelic drugs. And he didn't dodge the draft like many of us do, as was described. He applied for confidence objective status. When his application was denied, he moved to Canada. Pat was romantic, sometimes dogmatic, idealist, practical idealist, influences the world, and is called a visionary. I consider Pat a visionary. He founded the Dumps. He built Mapworks. He wanted a family. He raised 3 creative and talented children. He wanted to bring music culture to Yakima, and he created the Seasons. Pat's vision engaged and influenced people and shaped the world around him. I will miss Pat, but I'm comforted to think that his ideals and vision live on in his friends, his family, here at the Seasons, and in the music he loved.
As much as the Seasons and the arts meant to Pat, his family meant infinitely more to him. Please welcome our next speaker, Pat's sister-in-law, Lori.
What to say today. I just have to ask the rest of the divas to give me some words to use. Words that they think of describes me. And a lot of the sentiments and more. Those were encouraging, personally, musically, intelligent, honest, political, gregarious, a tireless supporter of the arts and his family, a builder, a musician, a lover of music and humanity. He was warm, humorous, jovial. Those are some of the things that hurt that I found fit Pat really well.
Hi, thank you everybody for coming. I'm AJ. I'm Pat's oldest daughter. Yesterday, an old friend told me every cell in my body changed. My dad died. For me, it's felt like entering a new world, one where I don't speak the language and I'm allergic to the air. My dad is the person I would have called for advice on how I might learn to live in this new world. He wasn't afraid of disaster or pain or loss. He approached life's catastrophes with curiosity, not fear. There's no amount or arrangement of words I could say that could ever encapsulate what it was like to have him as my dad. He was the smartest and gentlest person I when we were kids, we would cook breakfast in the morning in the school bathroom with my orange cat, Taffy, draped around his shoulders like a shawl. He once, when I was in middle school, took me and 6 of my friends to an REM concert in Winnebago. And he didn't get irritated, some of them aren't here today. He didn't get irritated even once, despite our, constant shenanigans. He never got angry if you made a mistake. My dad taught me how to play the guitar and the piano. He taught me how to macrame, how to dribble a basketball and throw a pitch. He taught me how to write a sentence and interpret a poem and drive a car. He taught me to cultivate and value my interior life. He taught me how to make and how to keep a friend. One of my most vivid sense memories from childhood is the feeling of his hand releasing the rein on the back of my bike as I rode unsupported for the first time on this long stretch of flat asphalt at Magazine Park in Seattle. I remember turning back and seeing his face, which was like just as joyous and exhilarated as I felt in the moment. I really think he loved those moments of transition for his teaching. Another time, when I was about 17, I tried coming in too hot for the parking space, and I was so proud I had to call him for help. He taught me how to change a tire several times, in fact, but he dropped what he was doing and he drove to where I was, and he just taught me again. He didn't just let right into the jack. He told me in his mild way, step by step, how to do it, and I did. He always knew when to keep his hand on the back of the bike and when to let go. My dad also taught me that making art is only partly about inspiration, not the other ineffable things. The other part of being an artist, or just of being a person, is unglamorous and sometimes actively dull. Long hours worked, stable practice, fundraising calls made with gusto, endless thrills like the jump shot with your weaker hand. He loved the boring stuff too, and he barely differentiated between daily labors and extraordinary inspiration. In every nook and cranny of life, something to learn, maybe or two. In moments when I struggled to locate my home, he was always there to help me find it. The new world without him is frankly terrifying. It's so much less fun and so much less fun. It feels so much less safe. From here, the years ahead, when we will really miss him every day, look so impossibly long. But I'm trying to approach the new world in a spirit that he would appreciate by imagining the joys that will eventually grow here. Despite his absence, I'm trying to keep at the front of my memory the innumerable ways he has prepared me to live without him. The old world was so beautiful. I miss it and him so much that it does feel like everything, like every cell in my body has changed. But I also know if I asked him, he would tell me without hesitation that in time, the new world will be beautiful too.
Thank you all for coming today so much. Your presence here means the world to our family and is extremely touching. I see so many people from over the years who have come to remember my dad here today. Working at the Seasons for almost 10 years, extremely important time in my life. And I'm incredibly grateful that I got to have so much time with him in this very building. Many people who've come to see his performances over the years can probably see him just like I can. Probably sit down at one of these tables, glass of wine, bob in the head. He was so into it. He loved the music here. He loved this place so much. I would usually be closing up for the night and counting the tills, closing down the bars with my trusted colleague and amazing friend Nick, who's right back there, and many others who are here today that just honestly just touched my heart so much that people came. My dad frequently stayed till the end of the night and locked up the front door because he always closed it down. He loved it. He created a very special place for himself here at the Seasons, which benefited so many people in this community and in this room. I have so many amazing memories of putting together shows here with my dad, or with my dad in the backdrop. So many. He was a special soul with the ability to positively affect and inspire others around him in the community. But he also held that very special place in our family as well, and as my dad. As a father, as my sister covered, he was incredibly hard to make mad. We always tried. We literally did. At the most, we got a gentle correction, and at the worst was the acknowledgement that he had been disappointed. You didn't want to disappoint him because he was so cool, and we were terrible teenagers, like literally awful teenagers, and it would just be like, it would be so sad when we disappointed dad. It was the worst punishment. He never raised his voice in my memory, or maybe just very few times, or lost control of his temper. As a parent myself now, I understand what a deep well of patience and self-control that takes, as well as just having a very gentle heart, which he did. He was always kind to us, gave us the benefit of the doubt when we deserved it, the very least, and he believed in us. Working with him, I saw him extend his optimism to many people. Always willing to give people a shot, ready to give them an opportunity and see what would happen next in a non-judgmental way. He did that for me when I needed it the most in my early 20s, and allowed me time and space I needed to develop as a human and as a professional. He believed in that. He believed in giving people space and not controlling human beings, especially kids. So as a child and as an adult, it was always easy and enjoyable to spend time with him because you felt accepted. You could be who you are with my dad. Also, he knew how to have fun. We would always go out with the performers after the show, and my dad would order many things off the menu and be the first to open up a good bottle of wine. We laughed and joked all the time. It's just part and parcel of Strosahl family life. But my dad especially welcomed in as much happiness, laughter, and beauty as was available to him in any given moment, and quietly shared his joys with the other around him. Like he might point out the high contrast shadows that make a picture so good, or marvel at the beauty of the Zilla orchards in snow, or offer you your second margarita while shooting off fireworks in your back porch. Just depended on the day. He definitely lived in the moment, but he was also living in the thick of long, complicated life processes that he understood so well. My sister and I, as wayward teens, coined Pat's brand of fatherly advice, consulting the sage, or bringing out the sage when we were teenagers, due to his measured approach in doling out choice bits of advice. Until his death, he remained the person I would call when I was at my worst, the one who could instantly put me back together, He was one of my best friends. He truly was. He could acknowledge the seriousness and reality of certain life circumstances that you were living without extending undue pressure on his children to be different. He would sometimes give us information or anecdotes from his own life experiences or share his perceptions of the world, which would always expand my point of view. When questioned for answers, he frequently told me to follow my bliss and refused to give specifics, which I now know would have been helpful. But I'm still happy to be a 39-year-old woman standing here before you who believes in following her bliss, thanks to my dad. For my dad, I think following his bliss was working here for this community at the Seasons, and I truly mean that. Sometimes I would see him in terrible health, and I would be so worried. I knew that many days he was in pain. But through it all, he wore a smile and a light heart and an unshakable optimism and a total commitment to his work here. He would tell me how happy he was, how he had 3 great children, an amazing wife, and he was doing work he loved here at the Seasons. I think my dad died a happy and peaceful man, something that's probably really hard to do as an atheist. He gave me a wonderful example of how to live a purposeful life in any corner of the world. Dedicate yourself to who and what you love, day in and day out, and keep dreaming big, impossible dreams. Thank you.
Likewise, I'm going to do my best here, no promises. First thing I want to say is thank you all for being here. And thank you to the musicians so much for coming and doing that. So just to, like Jamie said earlier, zoom out a little bit. We're here at the Seasons in Yakima with his, family who all love each other very much. And just to be up here with my 2 brilliant sisters. Hearing musicians that he established relationships with in this venue is a testament to how he spent his life. And I bet you I'm pretty certain of this, if, he offered comment on this, he would say, I told you, I had a great life. I have nothing to complain about. And he was really like that. He never complains. And I kind of only see that now. Isn't that so often the way it works? But he just loved life and he loved this place. And it's in this community that he felt most, that he loved this community. He loved Yakima. He loved what he was doing here. And I guess I just want to say that what you saw was what you got with him. He really did just love being here, sharing music with everybody. And it really comes down to that sharing. I think I have kind of described him like he held up a mirror to music, He held a mirror to music that allowed other people to see into it. That included me. I grew up partly under the piano, hearing him humming, playing Beethoven, Mozart, Bartok, Schoenberg, whatever it was. And he really, really loved Bach. And he didn't just love it, but he loved to share it with me to say, listen, now this part, this to me is like X. And that is what I mean by a mirror. So I think he wanted to hold that mirror up to this community. So, sorry, I really can't remember that. But just briefly, they said so eloquently what he was like, but in summary, He was very tolerant. He took a really broad view of people. You never got him like talking smack or complaining or really judging people. Like he understood, as he often said, like we're all the heroes of our own stories. And like he understood the power of memory, the power of story, and he would talk about this a lot. So in a second, I want to focus that lens onto the idea of death, because I think if he's up there, he might enjoy that, because death has revealed itself to be something that yields to so many different interpretations and ways of looking at it. And there's a beauty simply in that spectrum, in the richness of that spectrum. And he would love that. He loved nuance. He loved dialogue. He loved. I can't really think of things that he hated, besides like going on a hike. Anyway, in objective a way as I can judge, he was a really brilliant person. He thought very deeply about things. He was intensely curious, philosophy, literature, politics, music, loved dialogues. As a dad, he was indescribably and forever the coolest. He just was there. He was there with you at ground level with whatever you wanted to do, not from afar observing it. He was like right there, sharing your enthusiasm and just always there. Like whenever you were about to step on the diving board, figuratively, you could look behind you and he would be right there, holding the video camera, telling you about it, telling you how much he loved it. I admired him so much, and intellectually, just on that level alone. I read the books he read. I, parroted the opinions he had before I formed my own, that sometimes differ from his, like about composers, books, whatever. But oftentimes they really coincided because, I just found what he had to say really brilliant about a lot of the creative efforts that people have put into the world, be it music, art, all of that. And he was an idealist in that he truly believed that there was meaning in those things, real meaning. There was truth in that. And I think that's such a powerful idea that, for him, music was it. It was not something that was just, here I'll engage my moral faculties. It was like, he was just seeing it as if it was just right in front of him. He could just talk to it and hold it, and that's amazing. So about the experience of losing someone, it's not encapsulated by one emotional spectrum, and obviously many of you here probably know this. But since he embraced different perspectives, let me offer one. To look at the absence of him is to see a huge scar, to see an emptiness that unquestionably deprives my life and my future of a source of just gentleness and beauty and humor in his lyrics. But when you flip the lens, you can see that scar as a garden. And while that person is alive, they're putting seeds in that garden. And there's a gate on the garden. You can't open it really until they pass. But when you do, you can find that person again in work. In the seeds they planted there, you never even really, sometimes you did, but you didn't always know they were planting. And for me, that garden that I've entered now is just full of these towering, beautiful plants that will nourish me for the rest of my life. So that, looking at that, it's really not a loss at all, but in fact, the opposite. You gain what that person was, what they amounted to, and all those memories you had with them, everything that they put into you is so real. It's absolutely real. And each of us is a direct, just like it becomes apparent only after the fact, kind of, that we're each just a reflection of his love of art in different ways. And for me, that happened to be music. But before you guys just prattle on about that, I'd like to just share a few of the plants that I found that bear his name in that garden that I was privileged to be able to enter. One, honesty and being honestly motivated. Like I said, what you saw was what you got. There was no difference between what he said and what he really felt, like, ever. He was just an extremely honest person. And it's a little more tricky to be honest with yourself, but that's something that he really thought about a lot too. And going back to the unreliable narrator, how we're all the heroes of our own story. Anyway, but being honest and caring about honesty. Two, it's a big one. I mean, maybe the biggest one on a macro view: joy, happiness. Being happy, being alive is, in a certain sense, to be happy. That's how he treated it. And I think he had thought deeply about death and whether any of this meant anything. And he came out the other end just saying, you know what, I'm just gonna love everything. I'm gonna love every single moment. And he never apologized for that. He would never apologize for, and sometimes I would be sitting next to him while he was going, and sitting and listening and be like, damn, I thought, even though I did that, even though I got that from him. But he never apologized. He just looked at me beaming, just like, isn't this the greatest? And then I'd be like, yeah, it is. You are right. But yeah, joy, just how to say it, be happy. Another thing is to not be judgmental about, and I don't want to make these prescriptive, be this way, be this other way, but or don't be this other way. This is just what it meant to me. Being non-judgmental, not being so quick to judge motivations, to judge people, situations, things, and sort of understand that people are not one way often. So anyway, another one, find humor in everything. Any situation the dude could laugh about. He did endure a lot of physical pain that was sometimes even lost on me because he didn't express that. He didn't sit around saying, I'm in pain. He was in pain. But he would always be able to joke about it, about everything. So he, as our dear friend and family, Coral Schaefer, his lifelong friend, said he listened to the music of his mind. I think that really encapsulates him. And he had a kind of a rare combination to me, which is that he was very confident, self-assured, and trusted his mind to kind of parse through any issue. Sometimes when a little extra training could have actually helped, but he did, but he also didn't require validation. He didn't have that much of the dark sides of that confidence. He didn't like chest beat. He didn't feel the need to dominate. He really didn't care about like money as something that was, related to his stature at all. But he was confident, but he did not require validation. And the last thing, I just have the word art. This is who I am. And it's from him forever. I will always just find music to be the summit of meaning in life. And the things people can make creatively as the best things in the world. And like him, I will never apologize for that. I'll never change. I'll never stop. Being a musician and making music is not supposed to sound aggressive. It's sort of because I'm not going to hear, but it's like he, I vacillated. This life is hard in this way, and all these things, all these insecurities, and really, why do that? Just believe 100% in yourself, like 100%. What he told me one time, actually very late in his life was, I was just saying like basically nothing matters. And he was like, no, everything matters. It's actually, in a sense, there's an arrogance in thinking that nothing matters because you're thinking that you can take a bird's eye view of the world and suggest that what you're doing doesn't matter or does matter. No, so instead, you just take the option of, yes, what I'm doing matters. So how I behave matters. What I put in the world matters. What I actually believe is important matters. Doesn't matter what people think about that. That matters. That energy that you put into the world is the best of us. So anyway, in April, I'm going to go to Berlin and record a piece that I originally composed for him for his birthday. And it's very sad that he won't be able to hear it. But at the same time, it is in the fact that I'm writing the music and what I think about when I write music is a result of the conversations we had. So once again, the lens is switched from emptiness to fullness because and we are all every bit his children. The last thing I want to say, let's not have this memorial be an end to anything. This is not an end to his life. Instead, take a seed inside you that you think is important, that you care about, and pour some water on it today. Whatever that is, take it, whatever idea, no matter how far-fetched you think it is, go for it. And also, have a laugh while you're at it.
Hello, my name is Kevin Krentz. I'm a cellist, and I'm just so honored to be here to respect and admire the life of a man that is just so noble. You know, these children and the father they get to have, it's just incredible. And I got to meet Pat when he had just started to come back to Yakima, and they had just bought the seasons, and he had seen my trio in a concert and decided that we would make a good team. And so he started bringing us over, and we were on the ground floor. This was a brand new place, and had a long way to go to become what it is today. And so Pat and I became dear friends because we really shared a very similar outlook on life. I've lived for many years in the music world and amongst very serious musicians who play at world-class levels, and everything is, very serious. But I, in all my years, have never talked with anybody with as large and wise and caring of a view as Pat. And so he and I just had so many conversations. He became a real mentor to me because, he was such a voracious reader. He was so much in love with music, as you've heard so many times. And I would bring all kinds of musicians here. For a long time, we were really doing some interesting stuff here, before reality came crashing in. We were just living the dream. We were putting on a concert here every month and trying all kinds of things. And he would bring us out at night afterwards. We'd go to the restaurant, and I learned to appreciate good wine. I'd never had good wine. And Pat showed me good wine, and then every time I'd come, he would show me this and show me that. And then we were staying in the house with him, the whole my trio. Finisterre trio at the time, and he would make us a beautiful breakfast the next morning, and he knew how we liked our coffee. With me, usually how I liked my coffee, and he was just so kind and so generous. So we would spend so many hours talking about the music world in general, and I just felt so alive with him talking about these things, and we were on the ground floor doing this. And I needed that at that time. This was a time when I was a fresh young professional and looking to, find my way in the world. And Pat was someone who I really thought had it much more correct than so many of the other people that who supposedly have much more of a professional and global outlook. And Pat was just so amazing. And he supported me and that trio in such a beautiful way. It was really profound. So we had so many great times. I would like to play a little block for him. It's a little noble dance.
And now please, welcome up here Pat's wife and my partner, Judy.
I have to admit that when I heard just a brief preview of what my kids were gonna say, I'm like, what am I, chopped liver? But he was very easy and good to be married to also. I also don't quite know how to shorten this up, but I'm gonna speed it along if I can. In our early days of marriage, Pat and I took a couple of trips with his brother Steve. And I forget whether we were in Puerto Rico or Trinidad or in some exotic place for us. When Steve said, "You two talk more than any couple I know. It's like you never run out of things to talk about." Which I realize now is another way of saying, but the answer is no, not often. We have a lot to say to each other for all those years. And like our kids, I have a lot to say about him now, but it's been hard to express in writing the impact, or just marshal my thoughts to express the impact of someone who's been my other half for 51 years. It's hard to even write without bouncing ideas off Pat, who's the other half of my brain and 3/4 of my memories. When we met in 1968, though, I liked him immediately. He was many things that have been mentioned today, but he was both a lot of fun and serious about life. And we did live in the same house in Seattle for over 40 years. We knew our neighbors for blocks around Our home wasn't in a solely residential area. We could walk to grocery stores, library, tennis courts, UW, Green Lake, hop the bus downtown right on our corner. And such, I got this in the wrong order, such neighborhoods came to be called urban villages. Yeah, urban villages, and they were a form of zoning for which Pat later became an advocate politically, and that was a very big interest of him, his keeping the city livable for lots of different kinds of people. That was another part of his life. We had a backyard that grew larger when we bought the house behind us, and its empty side yard. Our close friend Coral, you've heard her name, who is here today, lived first with us, and then in that house behind, where we also shared our enameling studio for over 20 years. Later, we had, by United Builders, a second rental built on the side yard, where our extended family, various extended family members lived at different times, including my mom, who was on-site childcare 24/7. In that shared yard, it was like we called it our compound. We planted a garden with raspberries, which were Pat's favorite. Mainly the job he did was staking them up. I picked them, and held many outdoor parties. And here's a picture of one of them. Which was called a Summer of Love Reunion. This was in 2008. And the theme was Come As You Were in 1967. And some of the people who were at that party are here physically and on Zoom today. We had hoped from the start to have children, and they did not. Just gonna say, basically loved every minute with them. We both wanted to be stay-at-home parents, which was at least partially possible when we were enameling in our backyard studio. Pat was the creative one. He was the artistic one in our partnership. I could say something like, this kitchen color is too dark. And he would say, why don't we sponge it in 3 different brighter colors? And then he would do it. And he was good at that kind of thing. Pat also understood how things worked, and he fixed almost everything at home. This was not true later in life, but he could and he did. He also was, right to the end, an early adopter and an up-to-date computer whiz. And I am going to be up a creek if anything ever happens to our modem or whatever it is that's the kids or this was very common, that we would be wondering about some topic or other that came up, only to have him speak authoritatively about it from a previously unshared font of knowledge. And he would laugh about how he sure was, as his 3rd grade teacher had written, able to converse on a wide variety of subjects. I agree with the kids. Pat very, very rarely said anything negative about another person. I had to absolutely pry gossip out of him. He was never moody, always even keel, considered himself a lucky man, even in difficult times. Things changed with the move to Yakima, where he loved working with the people at United Builders, whom he greatly respected. Though there were many complicated challenges. He also threw his energies into the season. Typical of Pat, his dedication to overcoming one obstacle after another to keep this place alive never wavered. But he was well aware, and you all, I hope, are too, that he was grateful for the many brilliant and dedicated people who were also responsible for getting the organization where it is today, including many of you who are right here in the building today. I'm looking at you, Bert Creswell, among others. Not least of all, he loved you phenomenal musicians who played here over the years. So thank you with all my heart for being here in person and virtually. Our friends from Seattle couldn't come over and pass, but I know they're here, even though I can't see them. Yesterday, Pat would have been 76, and it was my first February 25th in 54 years without him. But it is comforting to celebrate with all of you. Now it's time for our last performer, a guy who's been discussing and sharing music with his dad his entire life.
So this is a song by Billy Strayhorn, called Fleshlight.
Thank you.